Tonight, WWE Hell in a Cell takes place from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. Inside the WWE Thunderdome, we have 3 Hell in a Cell matches scheduled for tonight's event. But in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Universal Championship. It's the battle of the family. The bloodline continues to feud against each other as Roman Reigns defends the WWE Universal Championship against Jey Uso, not just only in a Hell in a Cell match, but in an I Quit match inside Hell in a Cell. It's a very interesting one, this, with very specific consequences when it comes to the match against Jey Uso, because as Roman Reigns announced on SmackDown this past Friday, should Roman Reigns make Jey Uso say I quit during that match, not only will he win the match, but Jey Uso, his brother Jimmy, his children, his wife, his children's children, they will all be banished, in Roman Reigns' words, from the family. Shunned, banished. I guess they're not going to be a part of the family anymore as Roman Reigns continues this heel turn to prove to everyone that he is indeed the tribal chief of the Uso Anoa'i family. It's been brilliant, really, hasn't it? It's just been absolutely superb. I think the Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso feud has been, I mean, it has to be argued as one of the best things on WWE TV right now, and arguably one of the best things all year. And we've seen quite a lot of good stuff this year. Regardless of what you think about the pandemic, we have seen quite a few high spots in terms of great rivalries and great feuds in WWE this year. And I think the Roman Reigns Jey Uso feud really does top it. It really does top the list in terms of the fantastic feud and matches that we have seen this year. So I think you have to grade the Reigns versus Uso feud as an A+. Every single week on TV, the segments, the promos, the feuds, the acting, the reactions, all of it is absolutely gripping. It's the personification of week-to-week television, in the sense that you are already waiting to see what happens next. A lot of the time when it comes to WWE, it's predictable. You know where it's going to go. You know what's going to happen next. You know where they're going with the storyline. With this Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, we really don't know where it's going. I think the only thing that's possibly predictable about the entirety of this Jey Uso and Roman Reigns feud is that we know that Roman Reigns isn't losing the Universal Championship anytime soon. We know that. But in terms of the finer details of this feud, in terms of the family feud, what happens next, what were the consequences? I don't think anyone really predicted what these consequences were going to be for Roman Reigns in terms of his match against Jey Uso at Hell in a Cell. I think everyone was interested and fascinated to see where it's going. So I think a lot of people are quick to criticize WWE when it comes to their storylines. I know I am. I think a lot of people are quick to criticize bad matches, bad stories, bad storylines. But in fairness, you have to be quick to praise what is good television, what is good storytelling. SmackDown is a good show at the moment. It has been really since they moved to the Thunderdome. SmackDown is a good show. SmackDown has good stories. Roman Reigns' heel turn has been fantastic. This feud with Jey Uso has been fantastic. Every single week they knock it out the park. And the match they had at Clash of Champions was just, I mean, absolutely superb, wasn't it? What more can be said about it? The match itself, the nuts and bolts of it, was the in-ring action incredible? No, it really wasn't. If you're going to hold that match up against Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage from WrestleMania 3, is that match going to blow out the water? Absolutely not. But the storytelling, the drama, the emotion, all of that in that match and in this entirety of this storyline has just been absolutely fantastic. And I think Roman Reigns, we spoke about him. I mentioned him in the video I did about Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre earlier on. Roman Reigns' heel turn is got to be one of the stories of 2020. It really does, because his heel turn's been fantastic, and I do feel like I'm repeating myself slightly when I've spoken about this topic, because it's a topic we've spoken about quite a few times here on the channel, and it's that Roman Reigns, this heel turn, it's almost not a heel turn, and this is what the reason I say that is because it's Roman Reigns finally being allowed to be himself. And I'm not saying that Roman Reigns is a bad guy in real life, because he's not. I think whenever you've ever seen a Roman Reigns interview, whenever you've ever seen Roman Reigns in one of those documentaries they do for WWE, whether it's on WWE 24, Untold, WWE Chronicle, The Day Of, any of that sort of stuff, whenever you see Roman Reigns in real life, in a real life environment, in a real life setting, just being himself, being Joe Anoa'i, not being Roman Reigns, the immediate thought is, man, that is a cool guy. Roman Reigns is a cool guy. Roman Reigns is a guy that I want to be friends with. Roman Reigns is a guy that I want to be like, because he's cool, he's likable. And for years now, when Roman Reigns has been booked on WWE TV as a babyface, as that white meat, smiling babyface, he might as well be Hulk Hogan in 1985, because he's a couple of steps away from telling people to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. And it's so passé, it's so old hat, and it's so that no one wants to see it anymore, no one wants to hear it anymore. And I think finally they've let Roman Reigns be himself. Finally, they've let him be cool. And that's the thing. And I think that's the thing in 2020, that sometimes Vince McMahon, for some reason, has reverted back to the 1980s, where he sort of forgot that nowadays in professional wrestling, to be over, you need to be cool. And most of the time, the heels are cool. You get over by being a heel. It's been tried and tested for years now, whether it's Steve Austin, whether it's The Rock, whether it's John Cena, whether it's Batista, all of those guys, they got over by being heels first, because heels are cool. Heels are popular. Darth Vader, the Terminator, Thanos, the Joker, all of them, they get popular because they're bad guys, and bad guys, unfortunately, I guess it's representative of society, bad guys are cool, and that's the situation. And I think that's the situation with Roman Reigns. They finally realise, to get this guy over to a megastar status, let him be himself. Don't script stuff. Let him be himself. Let him be cool. Let him be bad. Bad is cool. Bad is over. And I hate to be one of those people that just, because I hate this narrative at the moment. Oh, well, when fans are in the arena, oh, we miss fans and all this sort of stuff. Of course we do. But you have to deal with the cards you're dealt. And there aren't fans in arenas right now, and there aren't fans in stadiums right now, and we have to almost get over it. You know, they will be back soon, but let's stop complaining, to be honest about it, and let's try and enjoy the product. If there were fans in the arena, and when there are fans in the arena, when Roman Reigns' music hits, this version of Roman Reigns, this guy's going to get cheered. This is almost like a real long turn to get to a giant babyface, and I think that's what it's going to be with Roman Reigns. I think it's undeniable. I think it is like The Rock. And we'll speak about The Rock in a second, because that is interesting as well. Because for me, and a lot of people have speculated, that because the entirety of this storyline in this feud with Jey Uso has been so centered around family, and Roman Reigns trying to call himself the tribal chief and the head of the table, and trying to get Jey Uso to acknowledge him as the tribal chief and the head of the family, it's very much family centric, isn't it? It's all about the family, and it's all about Roman Reigns cutting these promos saying he's trying to provide for the family, he's trying to provide for his kids, he's trying to provide for Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso and their kids and the entirety of the family. He feels that burden, he feels that pressure to provide for the entirety of the family, and obviously that's got a lot of people talking, because maybe the biggest name in the family, and the name that does provide for everyone else and has set the table for everyone else, is The Rock. He is obviously the biggest name in Hollywood. He's the biggest name in that family, and he's one of the biggest superstars of all time. He's certainly the biggest celebrity out there right now, the biggest action movie. And a lot of people have speculated, even The Rock himself has kind of stirred the pot on this one, and speculated that this could all lead to a WrestleMania main event between Roman Reigns and The Rock. Is that the biggest match that WWE can do right now? Absolutely. Will it happen though? I think that is so difficult to answer. I think The Rock would want to do it, and I think obviously Roman Reigns and WWE want to do it, but you have to think of what the case has been with The Rock for the last few years with WWE. For most WrestleManias, there have been plans for The Rock. Whether it was a match against Triple H, whether it was a match with Ronda Rousey against Triple H and Stephanie, whether it was a match against Brock Lesnar, all of those matches, there were plans there. There were plans there to do that, but The Rock can't commit to it because his schedule is so insane. Can he show up for one appearance? Yes, he can, and he has done that a few times for WrestleMania. Can he commit to a storyline that involves him to be there, 6 weeks out of the year and make all of these appearances? Not really. And I think it has to be a case of how bad does WWE want him to do it, and how bad does The Rock want to do it? Because ultimately, if The Rock wants to do it, he'll make the time, I think. I think it could be a case of a bit like Batista. With Batista for WrestleMania 35, he did that by appearing, in the actual build-up to WrestleMania, he appeared, 3 times? The rest was all pre-tapes and all this kind of stuff. The Rock could do that. That's an absolute possibility. And as we're in a pandemic, does The Rock need to be there on every episode of SmackDown? Absolutely not. To be honest, they could get away with just doing The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and doing it all in pre-tapes. I don't think anyone would care. So it is a possibility, and given how family-orientated this storyline has been, it's certainly one to discuss and one to consider, that we could see a Roman Reigns versus The Rock match in the future. I think it's absolutely a possibility. And I think also the success of this storyline, you have to think about the success of this storyline between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, is that it was only meant to be for 1 month. This match was only meant to be for Clash of Champions. This was only meant to be a vehicle to solidify the heel turn of Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was meant to destroy Jey Uso, turn his back on his family, make his family bow down to him, and that would lead Roman Reigns to elevate to another level in being a heel in WWE. But this storyline has been so good. This storyline has been so gripping, so great, that it's really caught the imagination of people and it's caught the attention of people, that the planned feud, which was going to be between Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt on SmackDown for the rest of this year, has been cancelled. Obviously, the plans were there. It had been reported that the plans were there, and also there was an episode of Friday Night SmackDown several weeks ago at this point whereby there was a new character added to the Firefly Funhouse, wasn't there? The new character was Wobbly Walrus, and that was Paul Heyman. It was a Paul Heyman puppet, and that was going to be the sort of Bray Wyatt was going to do those segments whilst he had his feud with Roman Reigns, had his feud with Jey Uso. Once the Jey Uso feud was over, he would go on to the Bray Wyatt feud, and the success of this storyline has been so great that they've just scrapped it. They've scrapped all of it. Instead, they've sent Bray Wyatt to Raw with Alexa Bliss, and they're doing great things. I love that partnership, and I think everyone does. It's absolutely fantastic. And instead, we're getting more of this Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns feud, which obviously no one is complaining about because it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. So it does show that WWE, I think it's quite funny because sometimes they are so not flexible when it comes to storytelling. They're so set in their ways. They're only going to do this. They're not going to change. And then they have circumstances like this where they are listening. They are listening to the audience in the sense that this is working. This is working, and maybe it's because it's elevating Roman Reigns to another level of being a heel. That's why they've decided to stick the course here, because who really wins out of a Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt feud? Because Roman Reigns would have to be Universal Champion coming out of it. Does Bray Wyatt really need to be doing jobs? No. So I think this is all worked out in the right way. I really do, and I think this match tonight at Hell in a Cell, inside Hell in a Cell. I mentioned their match at Clash of Champions. Their match at Clash of Champions, I said technically the nuts and bolts of the match, was it a great match? No, it wasn't. And it didn't need to be because it wasn't about that. Instead, it was about emotion. It was about drama. It was about storytelling. It was about making you feel uncomfortable. And it did all of that. It ticked all of those boxes. And I think tonight, it's going to be that heightened to another level. I think it's going to be off the scale. If you felt uncomfortable watching aspects of that Clash of Champions main event, if you felt uncomfortable seeing Roman Reigns humble his own flesh and blood, imagine it when there's a cage there. Imagine it when there's weapons involved. Imagine it when he's moving his or rubbing his face against the steel mesh of Hell in a Cell. That is going to be on another level. So I think that emotion, that drama, that grittiness, I think is going to be elevated tonight. And I think we're going to see it on a completely, entirely different level. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be emotional, and I think it's going to be fantastic. Do I think it's going to be the main event? I don't. Well, what I think and what I want, I suppose, are two different things. Would I be surprised if it was the main event? No, not at all, really, because I think it would be, it's been one of the best storylines in SmackDown, so it absolutely could be the main event. Personally, I would prefer to have Sasha Banks and Bayley as the main event, and I'm hoping that's what they go with, but this storyline is red hot, so I don't know. We could absolutely, this could be the main event, but I hope it isn't. In terms of future opponents for Roman Reigns, this is interesting because you have to consider whether this is the final match in the feud against Jey Uso. Logic suggests that it should be. Because a Hell in a Cell match should be the final match in any feud. It should be the bookend for any feud. Now, because of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, sometimes that isn't the case, which is frustrating. But I wonder, you look at the lay of the land on SmackDown, who are future opponents for Roman Reigns right now? Who's going to be the next to step up to be the Universal Champion? Or basically do the job for Roman Reigns? Maybe Rey Mysterio whenever he's back and ready? I don't think he'd feud with Seth Rollins. Two heels facing off doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Kevin Owens, maybe Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns would be a lot of fun. So there is options there, but there's something in me that says that this feud with Jey Uso won't be over tonight, even though it should be, since Hell in a Cell should be the traditional bookend for any feud in WWE. But I don't think this is going to be the final match. So in terms of a prediction for this one, I think it's inevitable. We're not going to have Jey Uso become the Universal Champion tonight. That just isn't going to happen. I think Roman Reigns will win. As I mentioned, I think it is going to be gritty. I think there is going to be emotion. I think it is going to be, at times, very uncomfortable. I think that slow pace that they had in their Clash of Champions match will continue tonight. And I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they slowed it down even more. If this was WWE in the mid-2000s or the late 90s, we would see colour in this one. We would see blood. And I think that would elevate the emotion to just a completely different level. And I would love to see that. That's my kind of wrestling that I really enjoy. But this is 2020 and WWE is PG, so I don't expect Jey Uso to do a blade job or get colour tonight, unfortunately. Even though I would love to see that, it's not going to happen because that's WWE PG. That's not going to happen. But I would love to see it. And as I mentioned, if this was 15 years ago, you know for a fact it would happen. If it was a Cody Rhodes match, absolutely it would happen because he does it in every single match. That means if Roman Reigns is going to win this one, then Jey Uso is going to quit. And then you think about the circumstances and the scenarios that involves. By quitting, Jey Uso is basically saying not only is Roman Reigns the tribal chief, but he's also saying that he's willing to have the entirety of his family banished from the wider Anoa'i family. That is heavy stuff. That is super heavy stuff. That is next level sort of twisted, emotional, heart-wrenching stuff. And I think that's a moment that we could see. That, to me, though, is why I don't think this feud is over just yet. Because this feud is about family, and the consequences of this match are that if Jey Uso does quit, which I think he will, then the entirety of his family is banished from Roman Reigns and the entirety of the Anoa'i family. I think the wife and the kids and all of that, I think, are going to get involved in this one. So I don't think this is over, but I do think it's going to be emotional. I do think it means Jey Uso is going to quit. How is he going to make him quit? I don't know. Because you got to remember, this is the same guy that at Clash of Champions, he refused. He openly refused to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. So why would he quit tonight? He didn't quit at Clash of Champions. Jimmy Uso had to throw the towel in. You can't throw a towel in Hell in a Cell. That doesn't fly. So that's interesting. It's interesting to see how they'll do this finish. I do think Jey Uso's going to quit. I preferred it as, instead of quitting, he has to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. Finally say you are the tribal chief. I think that would be a really interesting take and twist on the whole I quit, the way they usually do the I quit. But I think that's what they'll do. As I mentioned, chances of Jey Uso winning are, for me, non-existent. We aren't going to see a new Universal Champion tonight. That just isn't going to happen. For a variety of reasons. One, Roman Reigns isn't dropping the title anytime soon. I could see him holding it at minimum till WrestleMania, but I could see him holding it much longer. They are committed and invested on getting Roman Reigns to a next level. He is as on fire right now as he has probably ever been in his singles career, quite frankly. So they aren't getting him to drop the title anytime soon. So that isn't happening. Jey Uso isn't going to win the Universal Championship tonight. Is there a chance that Jimmy Uso gets involved? Look, of course there is. Of course there is. Jimmy Uso got involved in SmackDown and sort of the setup for attacking Roman Reigns. Jimmy Uso was there at Clash of Champions. He isn't cleared to compete, so I don't know about him taking bumps. He isn't cleared to wrestle or anything like that, because I think from his knee injury that he sustained around WrestleMania time, he isn't going to be cleared to compete till, I believe, January time. So we're in even the end of October now, so this would be a real early return, and I don't think they're going to risk it. Obviously, he can get involved once again, maybe. I don't know, he can't throw the towel in, like I said, but he can certainly appear on the outside of the cage and try and add to that emotion, try and add to that drama, so I could see that. I could absolutely see that, but again, if he does take a bump, I think it'll be a super minor bump, I really do. Are they going to go to the outside of the Cell? I think one match probably should tonight, to be honest. I mean, there's 3 Hell in a Cell matches, so the chances are we're going to go to the outside of the Cell in something. Do I think it'd be in the Bayley-Sasha Banks match? No. Do I think it would be in this match? No. I think if any match goes to the outside of the Cell, it would be Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, so I don't think this match in particular will go to the outside of the Cell, but who knows? And in terms of being banished from the family, what does that mean? How do they keep that up? I think that's very, very interesting. That's why I think that this feud isn't over, because Roman Reigns spoke about the consequences on SmackDown, but the next stage of this storyline is to see the consequences in action, in effect. So how do we see that? How do we see the consequences in action, in effect? We see them in the following episodes on SmackDown. We see it in the fallout from Hell in a Cell. So that's why I don't think that this match in particular is over just yet. This rivalry, rather, is over just yet. I think there is more to see, and I think this will, I don't know if it leads to more matches between them two, but there is certainly more there. There is certainly more there, I think. So there's certainly a lot of different directions to go here, but I do think coming out of this match tonight, we're going to still have the Universal Champion being Roman Reigns. I think it's going to be emotional. I think there's going to be drama. I think there's going to be grit. I think if you felt uncomfortable from that Clash of Champions match, just get ready, because it's going to be on a whole nother level tonight at Hell in a Cell. So really excited for this one, and this storyline has just been absolute perfection. It really, really has. But of course, as always, this is just one man's prediction. What are your thoughts on Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso inside Hell in a Cell for the Universal Championship in an I Quit match tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting about WWE and Hell in a Cell with you. So be sure to leave a comment and I'll be sure to respond. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. As I mentioned, we are doing a live Hell in a Cell watch along tonight for the event, so if you are subscribed, you'll be notified once we go live. So make sure you do subscribe if you're new to the channel, and you can click that notification bell for when we go live later on tonight. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.